Good morning, welcome to Life of Dave. We're back down the boat. It's Tuesday morning, it's coming up to 9:45, so I've got to crack on. Just done the school run, all the usual, got the boat cover off, opened everything up, got all the tools out, everything that I need, clean out the Hoover because that was full of crud, and I'm pretty much ready to start doing something now. So I'm pretty much ready to start what I need to do. So I want to get on, hoover everything out, get rid of all the dust. I've got a little bit of filler in to sort out and a bit of glass work. What I want to try and do today, temperature's still a bit down, but I've got the heater on, is I want to do a bit of glass work. We're not in the minuses today, so hopefully it's warm enough. And hopefully it's going to warm up a bit during the day as well, and with a bit of heat on we should be good. So at least it ain't -4 like it was last time I was down, and the last few times I've been down. So hopefully we can get some glass work done. So my plan today is finish the hatches. I've got a little bit of filler in one. Let's turn you around. Have a look. I need a little bit of filler in there to round this off a little bit because it sort of goes squarey there instead of round. So I need a little tiny bit in there. I need a little bit of glass on there just to build this out so that hinge sits flat and it doesn't drop in, because that makes it tip. I've got a little void in there that needs to just be filled. So we'll take care of that. I want to suck all the dust out and see if I can get some glass on the back of there and in there. If I can get that done in those, I want to see if I can get glassed underneath. But what I want to do is I want to glass it, let it tack up, and then get some gel coat on. If I can't get the gel coat on, I'm buggered, because that means I'm going to have to let it set and then sand it and then gel coat it, and that's not what I want to do at all. So really I want that done, so it's done and I can gel coat inside. And what I'll probably do, if I can, is just gel coat the whole locker. I'm not just going to gel coat the little bit that I've put the glass on. I want to gel coat the inside of the locker, so that's completely done inside. So the only thing I'll have to do to that later is suck out any dust that gets in there, wipe it out with a damp rag or something to clean it all up, and it's finished, you know. So once I can get the lockers on, that will keep up some of the dust out and keep it all sealed up. But again, I mean, I can't fit any of my furniture because all my hinges are going to get covered in gel coat, completely ruined and everything else. So they're not the dearest of hinges, but you know, it's all extra cost if I've got to keep replacing stuff because it's getting knackered. Yeah, I've got these ones over here I've fixed on to keep the hatch in place, and I did have it all covered up, but we got some water in the boat and everything started going mouldy, and I had to get everything out and dry it all out. So I've had this up for a few weeks, airing everything out, letting air circulate and all the rest of it. It's a lot better now. Looks like we're all good, but it's getting full of dust, so I've just shut the top down. But these hinges are getting covered in dust, which I can take them off and clean them up, but what I don't want is them getting all scratched, ruined, and gel coat on them and all the rest of it. So before I do any painting and all the rest of it, once I get to the point where I'm gel coating the top, all this is going to have to come off. Hence why I've not fitted any of my hatches. I've got a hatch to go in there, I've got a hatch to go in there, but I'm not putting anything like that in this boat until I've finished what I'm doing now, because there's so much dust and dirt and mess to make that everything will just be ruined, absolutely ruined. So once I get this done, get this deck all sorted under here, so I've got to sand all this now. I've got to sand down the filler I put on last week. I've got to grind out some voids all around this hatch where I glassed that in. Basically, I mean, this was all glassed in, so there's glass under that, so it's all solid. But then I put coring material in and then re-glassed again, so the hatch area is glassed into the boat. This is just holding in the coring. You know, I re-cored this with some hardwood, and then went over it, and it was just too thick to go around there, so it kind of ruined it really. So I've got to redo all that, which is a bit annoying, but I knew at the time that it had gone wrong and I could not get it to stick. It just would not work. So I knew that I would be grinding that out. It's just one of them things. But last time I come down, I got this all sanded, got some filler on there. I've got to sand that down. But what I really want to do today is concentrate on getting one of these done. If I can get this one glassed in and gel coated, that'll be great. So what I'll do is I'll glass this in. If I get that done and it all goes okay, I'll leave that drying and I'll get on with the next one. Hopefully that'll tack up and I can gel coat it and yay, and everything will be great. those two cleared out. So I've got rid of pretty much all the dust now. All I've got to do is give it a wipe round some acetone. There is a little awkward lump in the corner that's been sanded, but it's not quite flat. Come on, focus. There you go. You can just get the idea. There it is. Looks a bit messy. So what I'm going to do with that is I've sanded it. I'll just give it another little go to try and make it a little bit better. I can't really get into the corner very well to finish it. You need something round it to get in there. Ain't happening. So what I'm probably going to do with that is, before I glass it, I'm just going to wipe a little bit of pudding in there. So me bonding paste. So I'm going to gouge out this little bit here, because that needs a bit in there. And before I do any glass work, I'm going to knock up some bonding paste, and I'm going to smear it right along there to fill in any little voids, ripples, you know, where you get your filler, you get like a little edge and all of that. I've sanded it as well as I can get it, but it's really awkward to get in there and get a perfect radius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-radius it with some wet, and then I can put my glass on top of that, wet on wet. You know, so once I've got that in there, I can roll some glass in there, and it will conform to that nicely, spreading out that coat that I put on there of the bonding paste. That's the plan anyway. So I'm going to concentrate on getting one of these done, and then once I've done that, I'll move on to the next one. But first off, I need to just gouge out this little crack over here, a little bit of a dodgy edge on there. That needs a bit of bonding paste on. That's where I glassed round to there. I've just got the edge of the glass there. Doesn't show up too well on camera, but basically there's like a little hairline crack down there where I've built up that edge. So it come out quite nice there, just as it got thin there. The whole thing will need a little thin smear of fairing compound when we're done. So I'll do it all, get everything fitted and all the rest of it. And then pretty much what I'll be doing is, like I've done up here, I'll be putting a coat of fairing compound over it and then sanding it almost right back so you can see through it. So it's really thin, and that will take out any imperfection. So there's basically like a little void in the fairing compound there, which I don't want. So I'm just going to V it out a little bit. Yeah, it is only tiny, it's surface deep, you know, it's just on the surface. There's a tiny little void there, but I don't want that. So whilst we're doing everything else, I mean, if it was just that, I could paint over it with a gel coat. Yeah, it's not a problem. It isn't that bad. It's minor. But seeing as I've got to do all this work and I've got to get some bonding paste out and I'm going to run some around other areas and all the rest of it, I might as well take care of it. So that's that V'd out. The only other thing I've got to take care of is just in here. A little bit light in that. Where I glassed this and it fell off, I've got some resin that has dropped inside there, so I've got to take that out. In there. If I can get behind it. That's easy to break it out. Most normal people would use a hammer for this, you know. Mechanic hands. Oh, I won't be happy till I hurt myself. There we go, that popped. Whilst I know, ain't no one in the world going to see this, I don't want it in there. Nobody will see in there where that is, but I know it's there. What if one of my kids puts their hand in there to look for something, and that scratches them? Catch their hand, you know. They'll be like, well, yeah, well done, Dad, lovely boat you built. What I don't want to do is chip holes into the bottom of the locker. Keep the screwdriver flat on the bottom so it doesn't dig in. There we go. Those little bits. Go. Let's get that up. Right, let's run a little bit of tape over that. Sometimes you don't notice things until you start cleaning it up and you realise that actually it's not as good as I thought it was, and you've got to do a bit more work. But now's the time, before I go doing all that and getting it ready for painting and thinking it's good to go. You know, I've noticed it now. I've
once I've got that all done and ready to gel coat, it's too late, you know. If I mix the gel coat up and oh look, I need to sand that. It's too late. Get rid of it. Get it taken care of now. Not only did that bit in there not stick, but it also ruined the inside, look. Bit of acetone. It does, however, remove the marks that I put on there, but I know I need that bit. There. And I know I need this bit up here. Glassing in here is not going to be easy. Painting in here is not going to be easy. I'm not even going to know if I've got full coverage really. Unless I can do it with a mirror. It's going to be messy and awkward. I might need to use like a cut down brush. Just the bristles, not with the ferrule. Same for glass in it. I might have to take the handle off the brush to do it. Because I've got to get up here. I think what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to put a little bit of paste in there. I'm probably just going to use my hands. And I'll say if I can cut a brush down, I might be able to stipple it slightly. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use CSM. I'm going to use weave stuff that I've got. I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to do the next one. I'm not going to record that. It's just me cleaning it out again. So I'm going to do the next one, get that one ready. Yeah, I've got some like, it's not the woven roving, but it's, oh, what's my brain's turned off? I can't remember what it's bloody called. Like biaxial cloth. It's a lot stronger than CSM, and it should be a lot easier to put up. I can cut it in straight lines. It's very thin, but it's very strong. So I should be able to put that up and feed it up by hand into place, and it will stick nicely without having to work the air out of it like I do quite as much on the CSM. Yeah, it should go up a lot easier than that. But we'll show you what I've got in a mo when I'm ready for it, and yeah, we'll crack on. Right, so we're all cleaned up. I've acetoned in there, I've cleaned up what I need to. So I'm just going to mix up some bonding paste, fill in a couple of holes and work some into the corners. Filler ready to knock out. We've not catalysed yet. I've got to cut me some cloth first. It'll be easy to do before I get it all sticky. So I've got this stuff. It's a weave, like a roving, but a very fine one. It's a lot stronger and lighter. You know, it's quite thin. And I can cut this in strips using the shears and then just fix in nice straight strips. It means I've not got the feathered wispy edge like you get with the CSM, but we should still be able to lose that quite nicely. Like I say, it's only thin. So I'm going to cut me some strips off of this that I can fix in there along the back, right behind the hatch stopper, like the door stop for the hatch. So I'm going to put a little bit of filler in there to radius it and then fix some glass up. Then we're going to do the back and down the sides, work our way around it, the best way to go really. Either way, it's going to get messy, I know it is. It really is. It's going to be a nightmare. I don't think these too big, but yeah, I want them wide enough that they're going to cover the corner. I might have to trim this down. Well, I'll definitely have to trim this for a few of the spots, so I just want to get it roughly to size. So I need a bit for the front to cover into there and into there, so about that size. Now I've got the length, I can cut it down to width. I might even do that in 2 bits because I've got to get that in there and stick it onto the back of that and push it up into place. Let that set, trim off the excess, job's a gooder. If that one will do that, I know that one will do the next locker as well. So that will go up in there. We'll work that along. Yeah, I'll probably use my fingers. I might have to do the back end first and come back to that because I think that's going to get in the way when I try to get my hands in there. I was thinking it'd be easier to do this edge first, but I think maybe the back edge first. Otherwise I'm going to have this dripping all over the back of my hands. Alright, so I've got one for the front, overlap it. In fact, it might be easy to do it in little strips and overlap it. think that's going to be the easiest way to go. I'd like to do it in one strip, but it's just it's not going into the corner. This is just a dry run. I've got the heater on to warm it up in here, and I'm starting to melt. I don't like it too hot. Right, so that goes into the corner nicely like that. Little overlap there. Next one. Beautiful. A little bit to the end. I just think this stuff will be easier than the CSM. There we go, so we've cut that into there. And we'll just overlap it slightly. That'll do, you know, it's tying in the inside of the locker. And once I've gel coated over that, that should act like a filler. You shouldn't see too much of that anyway. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. Please work. But like I say, it's just a locker. You know, it's just the inside of a locker. You know, how pretty do I need it? Well, obviously I want it as good as I can get it, but if that's as good as I can get it, that's what it's getting. So this should just go on with a brush. I shouldn't need to roller that. So there you go, so that's me 3 sections there. I've got to cut some for the ends because I've got these end plates in here with a gap at the top in case I want to pass wires. So that goes through to the next locker up there. But I want that just glassed in a little bit so it can't move anywhere. So again, a little bit for the bottom. It hasn't got to be perfect, it's just got to be tied in so it can't move. So I'll pop a little bit in there, up against the end. It doesn't matter if it doesn't fully meet the corners, you know, it's just got to be tied in so that it can't move. Once I've got it locked in place, I know it's glassed in, it ain't going nowhere. Ideally, I do want to get it right to the corners, but there you go, like that. Beautiful. I'll do as good as I can do it. And that's all I can do. Like I say, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be messy. But it's all fun, isn't it? There you go, so a little bit for the side. Hopefully that'll fit in there. I'll tell you, dry run's quite nice, doesn't it, eh? We're sticking in good. Bit for the other end. A bit in there. Nearly there. For a dry run. And we can get some glass mixed up. Glass mixed up? Resin mixed up. Not glassy. So I've got a little bit of bonding paste mixed up there. Just have a little bit over here. Just have a little bit in there. Let's turn the heater off for a moment. Because whilst I want it to be warm enough for this to go off, I don't want the resin to go off super fast. I'll make sure I scrape all around the sides, because I think that might be where my boo-boo came from the other week, when I had those 2 little patches that didn't set up. I was using an old pot and it had a bit of muck on the side, so I was trying not to scrape the crud off the side of the pot into the resin, and yeah, inadvertently what I ended up doing was not mixing a little bit of the resin, and you know, wiping that on the work, I reckon, and that's why it didn't set up. So when I put that bond in place, once you put the resin on, you start working that out, what you'll find is it sort of almost looks like it's melting it a little bit. And like other fillers, you can sort of brush it out. Because this is resin based filler, you can pretty much, you know, you can mix it with more resin and thin it out a bit, you know. If I have to mix up a little bit more resin afterwards, do the edges and whatnot, so I will, but I'm going to do one bit at a time, get it done. So pretty much just sort of painting this stuff on, and obviously I've got to put a little bit on the front there, sort of run there, grip. I'll put a little bit on the front there, so hopefully if I can get this done before all this resin starts going off, I'll do that at that point. 2 bits for the left side. Get that into the end without it all sticking to my gloves and ending up a total mess. I can't really show you too much what I'm doing in here. It's too awkward. I'd love you to see what I'm up to, but I've pretty much got to put my head in the way. Up a wee bit. So pretty much what I'm looking to do is just get the resin through the glass. That should go completely transparent, really. You should be able to see through this stuff. And then once I've done that, just tap out the air, brushing it out to the sides. And that'll do. You know, I haven't got to roll this glass. This goes pretty flat if the surface is good. There we go, that one's done. That's gone in nicely. Much easier than the CSM in this space. Just going to lose these little wispy bits. I say lose them. I've got to stick them to my gloves. If it tends to stick to your gloves or your fingers, whatever you're doing, and you stick it in place and then pull it back out again. Now if you've got some, I don't know about the latex, but the vinyl gloves, you can sort of apply this stuff by hand and work out the air. These are a bit dirty for doing that with, really, and a bit sticky. They're not as smooth as the vinyl gloves and won't conform the glass to the curves. They sort of mess it up a bit and pull it around. So I've got to make sure that it's right back into the corner, you know. Not too good with my left hand. So if you push this stuff back, it pretty much pushes the air out, it soaks it in resin, does everything in one go. Except for that bit's folded, look, so it'll get air trapped in there. You can wet this and then put it in, but in this scenario I think I'm just going to end up in a sticky mess with it sticking to my gloves everywhere. Yeah, I could really do with my right hand in it, and I can't. It's not going right at all, this bit. It keeps folding over. I can't get it right at the top there. That's better. Push it in, slide it up. It kept folding over a little bit at the top, which what that'll give you, it'll just give me a fold which will dry with a big air gap, you know, and then I'll have to get in there to sort it out afterwards, and that'll be a nightmare because there ain't no way I'm going to be sanding this glass in this hole once that's set up. I'll say what I want is this in, done and flat, looking nice, and then I can gel coat over it. That's the plan. I don't want it all bubbled and nasty looking. So just trying to work out the creases so that it goes in nice to start with. Can't get my hands in there to straighten it out into the top. I can't see what I'm doing, so excuse me a second. Let's get a light in there and have a little look at what's going on. Yeah, right. That's it. I've got a little fold in the glass, so I've just got to try and straighten it out, or it will dry and set up with a crease in it, and I don't want that. Tiny little fold where it just won't quite go into place. That's better. Beautiful. Right, now we can tap it back. I'll stop that there because you can't see what I'm doing. I'll come back in a mo when you can. Right, so I've put in the first bit. Whereas I keep sticking to the glass, and what happens, it keeps pulling all the fibres off the sides, so it starts getting in a bit of a mess. So we cut it all nice and straight and then start pulling it all apart. wispy bits, look. On the CSM they're brilliant. On this stuff, it pulls it all out again. It's really annoying. You try to blend stuff in with CSM, they're great. When you're trying to work with this stuff and it just keeps pulling it all about, not so great. I can move it with my fingers, but then what happens is it sticks to your finger, and as you take your hand off, it pulls it out again. Right, somewhere like that. And well, I just stretch it out with a brush. See that there's a little crease in the middle. I'll work that out. Sort of stretch it out, drag that end back out. There we go, like so. Working it out to the ends. So I'm just working that air from one end to the other, just pressing it out as we go. There's some tiny little fibres, so usually what I'd do is I'd let that set up and sand them off, but I don't want this to set up, so I've got to sand it. I want to get this done and glassed in one. That's the plan, so I need to make sure everything's tapped down. That's why I was trying to pull those little fibres off, so they don't set in place and stick out in the gel coat. But as soon as you grab hold of one of them, it then pulls the glass off the side of it. So you have to be a bit careful. But we're getting there. Oh, I'll tap this back edge. Make sure that's all down. Checking the overlapped section there, just to make sure that's all down. Not seeing any air at the moment. This bottom section looks pretty good. There's a couple of little straggly strands there, but I would stretch them back in the direction of the cloth, onto the edge of the cloth. They shouldn't notice too much without pulling the cloth about. That's better. So then it will just show like the edge of the cloth, if I'm lucky, without being too much, without being too obvious. I don't want a hard edge showing up there, you know. You might just see a couple of little strands in there. Hell, it's the inside of a locker. How good's it got to be, right? As good as I can get it. That's the plan. So we've glassed the left and we've glassed the right. We've glassed the centre. Now I've just got to get this one in without moving the bit that I've just put in and the bit on the right that I've put in already. Easier said than done, because there it goes, stick into my gloves. Take the gloves off, but I'm going to get covered in resin. Get that bit down there where you want it, and then feed the rest out straight. This is most awkward. So how do you get that into the corner there? Excuse me, not in the camera. Can't go past the corner or it will fold. Very gentle with the screwdriver so as not to poke holes in the cloth, or that will ruin it. There we go, pulling strands again. Look. There we go, get that out. Yeah, I'm literally barely touching that, as light as I can. I don't want to poke holes in it, but it sticks to the gloves and you end up pulling it back out again. You just get it all in place and then your gloves stick to it and you just pull it back off the surface again, so you end up, you know, in a right mess. And what happens if you do that So you'll just end up ruining the sheet of glass and having to take it out again and start again because it will start falling apart. And once it starts falling apart, you know, you're just gluing in a sticky mess now, you know. Yeah, so I've got to watch as you're pressing that down into there to work the air out. What I know is it's pushing that top layer down, which creates a fold in the corner. So you've got to be a bit careful, keep an eye on what you're doing. I just need to get the resin through the glass first so that it's well soaked. Got way too much resin for this section here. Looking pretty good. That's not air bubbles, that's like white filler behind that section. So it looks like an air bubble, but it's not. Right, so I don't think you see in there at all. But let's push the glass down at the top, which has created a big bubble there. Look. So what I need to do is just work that upwards. Just push it down from the bottom so that it keeps it into the corner. Right, again. Tap it upwards without dragging it too much. Looks good. As you push it into the corner, it pulls it down and creates that fold. Back again. Grrr! That's really awkward. Right, I'm going to have the mine out of the way for a second.